boys and girls. Good to see you again. And this is Biscuit. She's a Labrador and she's lovable. I've had her since she was 3 months old. She's gonna be with us today as we read Harold and Purple Crayon. This is one of my daughter's favorite storybook, and I would like to share it with you. Hey, Miss Kitty, are you gonna listen too? You be a good girl and listen, okay? Yeah. All right. Harold and the Purple Crayon by Crockett Johnson. Let's see if she behaves, okay, boys and girls? Harold and the Purple Crayon. Oh, you don't want to come? You want to stay? Well, we'll see. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. She doesn't like stories as much as you guys do. I'm so glad you're here though. There wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight. And he needed something to walk on. He made a long straight path so he couldn't get lost. And he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. But he didn't seem to be getting anywhere on the long straight path. So he left the path for a shortcut across the field, and the moon went with him. The shortcut led right to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. He didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. He's thinking. It turned out to be an apple tree. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. So he put a frightening dragon under the tree to guard the apples. It was a terribly frightening dragon. It even frightened Harold. He backed off. He backed away. His hand holding the purple crayon shook. Suddenly, he realized what was happening. But by then, Harold was over his head in an ocean. He came up thinking fast, and in no time, he was climbing aboard a trim little boat. He quickly set sail, and the moon sailed along with him. After he had sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. He stepped ashore on the beach, wondering where he was. The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics, and the thought of picnics made him hungry. So he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. There was nothing but pie. But there were all 9 kinds of pie that Harold liked best. When Harold finished his picnic, there was quite a lot left. He hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. So Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up. And off he went looking for a hill to climb to see where he was. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the farther he could see. So he decided to make the hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought he could see the window of his bedroom. He was tired and he felt he ought to be getting to bed. He hoped he could see his bedroom window from the top of the mountain. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped. And there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling in thin air. But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon. He made a balloon and he grabbed onto it. And he made a basket under the balloon big enough to stand in. He had a fine view from the balloon, but he couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see a house. So he made a house with windows, and he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. None of the windows was his window. He tried to think where his window ought to be. He made some more windows. He made a big building full of windows. He made lots of buildings full of windows. He made a whole city full of windows. But none of the windows was his window. He couldn't think where it might be. He decided to ask a policeman. The policeman pointed the way Harold was going anyway. But Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in his room and in bed. Then suddenly, Harold remembered. He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. And then Harold made his bed. He got in it and drew up the covers. The purple crayon dropped on the floor and Harold dropped off to sleep. Good night, Harold. The end. Hi, boys and girls. Did you like Harold and the Purple Crayon? I like it. I also like how Harold drew up the cover and went to bed at the end of the story. He used his magic purple crayon and his imagination wherever he went. Like Harold, we have special talents or even special power like Superman, Spider-Man, or Wonder Woman. We all like to have the ability to do things that no one else can. Still, you know what? The Bible says that when we believe in Jesus Christ, we are given unique abilities that we usually lack. It's a beautiful story about Harold and all creation in the world. There's something special about being a human being, a creature of God. All the other creatures on earth can't communicate like we can. They cannot do things like we can. They can't laugh, cry, singing. The story of Harold is like that. You see, a young boy, and maybe he's limited by circumstances. Perhaps he's limited by his family, money, or things, but Harold didn't let that stop him. It's a beautiful thing to have the power of imagination. God gave us the ability to imagine things. We can go to places we've never been, and in the blink of an eye, we can travel to different countries. We can go to the top of the mountain or the bottom of the ocean, and maybe to a different world if we try hard enough. To imagine things is beautiful and is a wonderful gift that not only Harold has, but we can have too. God gave us that gift of imagination to be able to see, go and do things that we physically cannot do. God gives us those traits to love, to feel, and cry. The emotions that make us human are wonderful. Harold and the Purple Crayon is a series of books that allows him to travel and do anything he wants. But that same magic is inside us so that we can do all the things that Harold can too. So next time you're at home or bored with nothing to do, use that imagination. You will be able to swim with the dolphins, fly with eagles, and do these things, all these things because of the imagination that God has given us. So why don't we thank God for the ability to imagine and do the impossibles? Thank you, boys and girls, for watching, and I will see you on our next adventure.